For the first time since the Great Depression, more people have left the United States than have moved into it, meaning migration has gone negative. And if you've been feeling this same pull, like something feels off, things aren't adding up, costs are out of control, housing is out of control, civil unrest is rising, political tension, war on masculinity, then you're not crazy. I felt this same way pre-pandemic, and it's why I left in 2022. So in this video, I'm gonna break down why this shift is not only happening, but it's actually accelerating, and why I believe it's just the beginning. So by the end of this video, you'll understand why leaving the US might actually be the best decision you'll make within the next decade, and why I believe it was the best decision that I've made to date. By the way, if you're new here, I'm Alex. I left the US back in 2022 through building location independent income. And now I've created an international life setup here in South America, and I help other men do the same. So let's dive in. Reason number one why Americans are leaving the States is because remote work broke geography. So since 2020, obviously something happened that year, millions of Americans have proved that they can earn dollars from literally anywhere in the world, right? Not just from home, but from anywhere on the planet. And once that barrier shattered, a powerful new question emerged, which is, if I can earn US dollars, a very strong currency around the world, why am I paying USA cost of living? And that's where geo arbitrage exists. Okay, geo arbitrage at the end of the day is purchasing power. If you had the option to live anywhere in the world, knowing that your income remains the same, let's just say, and that dollar goes much further somewhere else, why not capitalize on that purchasing power? It's an instant boost to your overall quality of life. And I'll make the case that most people at the end of the day, what we want is a higher quality of life. And one of the biggest factors to get that higher quality of life is increased purchasing power. For example, let's just say $2,000 to $5,000 a month abroad USD. Okay, this is always the range that I say. If you can earn $2,000 to $5,000 per month, location independent, remotely from anywhere in the world, then you pretty much have the keys to the kingdom. Okay, places like Mexico, Colombia, Paraguay. $3,000 a month buys you a premium lifestyle. I'm talking upscale apartment. You're dining out every single day, not just for one, maybe for your girl too. You have a premium gym membership. You're able to travel still to other places, not only within the country, but also around the Mercosur or within South America. Not that difficult to do off a $3,000 per month income. And not only that, you're also saving more on taxes, because if you live outside the country, you could take advantage of the foreign earned income tax exclusion, which I think is up to about $130,000 right now a year. So not only are you spending less, you're saving more, and you're saving more on taxes. Living a premium lifestyle, by the way, in an economy that's actually on the rise and not declining, without political tension, without all that other nonsense that I won't even talk about in this video. Now, $2,000 to $5,000 per month in the US. I'm from Boston, by the way, so places like California, New York, Massachusetts, that same $3,000 per month barely covers the rent and utilities. I mean, if you're earning $3,000 a month living in Boston, Massachusetts, or even outside of Boston, Massachusetts, I'm from a town 40 minutes north of Boston, Massachusetts. Rents there are going for like $2,000 to $3,000 alone for a 1 or 2 bedroom. So with $3,000, you're probably living with roommates. I mean, I'm not even including like the food and how expensive food is. You're probably not eating out much, if at all. Transportation, right? You probably own a car, because it's another thing, in the States, in the US, you have to have a car, just the way the infrastructure is built. Versus here in Colombia, Paraguay, Mexico, places in South America, you don't need a car. You just live in the best part of the city where everything is walkable within 5, 10, maybe 15 minutes max. You have everything that you need. Uber rides are like $1 or $2 a ride. You don't need to waste expense on a car unless you want to. So for me alone, when I was living in Boston, I was driving a Nissan Sentra. I was leasing it. When you add up all the costs, leasing, insurance, occasional parking tickets, gasoline, maintenance, it was about $1,000 a month for a basic level car. Healthcare is a big one for a lot of you, especially if you're self-employed like I was. I was paying several $100s a month for healthcare that I rarely even used, because I'm pretty healthy. I didn't really need to go to the doctors that often. But when you add up all this stuff, guys, and I know I'm missing out a lot on other areas you can spend in the US, forget about living a premium lifestyle. You're living a survival lifestyle. And not only the higher cost of living, but you're paying more in taxes as well. So good luck trying to save money off a $2,000 to $5,000 per month income in the US, whereas anywhere abroad, for most places, South America, Africa, Southeast Asia, places that are developing and growing, that are still safe to live in, by the way. You're either living like a king or close to it, while also saving money and having some extra to invest. So to me, this is leverage, all right? Your purchasing power and your quality of life skyrocket instantly, not because you're earning more, but simply because you moved. Literally with the same income, but a radically different lifestyle. And remote work really changed the game. Reason two is what I was sort of alluding to in the previous slide, which is cost of living versus wage stagnation. In the US, housing prices, rental prices have exploded. Healthcare costs are also very expensive. Basic necessities like groceries keep climbing. Paying for a car is expensive. Even people that are earning six figures, I mean, that's still not a premium lifestyle, guys, in the States. And obviously, the more you earn, the more you pay in taxes, so the less that you actually keep to spend towards your quality of life. And the middle class, I mean, the middle class is obviously disappearing if it hasn't already, based off what I just said, like six-figure earners. I saw a stat somewhere where people that are earning six figures, a certain percentage of them, more than half of them, can't even access $1,000 in a bank account liquid, which is, to me, is crazy. It feels that people in the US, like I was when I was living there in Boston, I was working harder and harder for less purchasing power every single year. So here's the standard life in the US for most people. Most people can barely afford to own a home. I've done different videos on the prices of homes, and I won't even get into that here. They're barely able to save any money at the end of the month. They're barely able to build any wealth at all. And they're paying high taxes in a high inflation environment. That's life in the US right now. Life abroad in places like South America, where I live, rent for high-end apartments is very affordable. For less than $1,000 a month, you can live in a high-rise apartment with an amazing view, with a gym, with a pool, walkable to everything, walkable to coffee shops, to malls, to bars, restaurants, anything that you need for less than $1,000. High-end, 1 or 2 bedroom for a high-end apartment is normal. Saving 40 to 60% of your income is normal, even if you're earning between 2 to 5K per month remotely. And obviously living a visibly better lifestyle, right? Your quality of life skyrockets life abroad. So once you've had a taste of this life, of the differences, of the dissonance, right, between the two, or even on social media, if you're seeing other people live that lifestyle, right, you start asking the question, why am I grinding so hard in the US just to get by with less? The value isn't there anymore. And once you realize that the numbers don't add up in your home country, smart people start to look at other options and other alternatives. The next reason is political and cultural tension. So I do remote sales as part of one of my location independent income streams. And one of the offers I was on was a relocation offer where we would help usually people over 50 years old looking to relocate from the US. They want to retire somewhere in Europe. That was really our target market on that offer. And the amount of people that told me that they felt unsafe in their own neighborhoods due to politics, due to tension, right? That was a huge reason for a lot of people relocating outside of the States when I was on that offer. So to me, there is a huge, huge divide in the United States just for political reasons. I've even told a story of, my dad, who I love my dad. I talk to him every week, right? We have a good relationship, but he leans heavily more on the left, right? Versus I'm more freedom, sovereignty, call me liberal, call me whatever you want. I don't define myself politically, but given the fact that simply because I don't lean left like he does, I'm automatically on the other side, right? And if we ever talk politics, it leads to arguments. It leads to it's just not a pleasant conversation. With my own father, who I have a good relationship with, right? Let alone your neighbor who maybe you do or do not get along with. If you guys have differences politically, I mean, good luck trying to have a friendship or some type of positive relationship there. It is possible, and people who are more evolved make that possible. But from my understanding, I mean, people are leaving their neighborhoods, they're leaving their country due to politics because of the great divide with that. So what people are feeling in the States, they're feeling polarized, they're feeling more distrust to the institutions, they're feeling overstimulated by media, they're exhausted by nonstop culture wars and political tension. Versus when you move abroad, guys, all that stuff pretty much disappears, right? It disappears. There's less noise, there's less intensity, there's fewer battles, there's literally no talk politically here in Paraguay, for example, or Colombia. The people that I meet and hang out with, like, we don't really care about that stuff, pretty much because we don't live there anymore. But even if we did live there, we still think similarly, right? We left for the similar reasons. So my point is, for many people, the reason they leave is really a mental health decision, right? As much as an economic one. Now that they've left, they actually have more peace, more simplicity, and a life that doesn't feel like a battlefield or an argument every day just because someone thinks different from them politically. Another reason is sovereignty thinking. And this one is one of my reasons, all right? I actually did an entire video on this. So I'll cover this briefly here, and then I recommend watching my video on 5 flags and flag theory. But this one's about passport and citizenship arbitrage. This is trending, right? Residencies as well. So people are no longer just thinking about where to live next year. They're thinking about long-term optionality. They're thinking about becoming sovereign individuals, right? This means having second passports, permanent or temporary residencies, to being part of territorial tax systems, international asset diversification, opening up foreign bank accounts, diversifying your currency to a completely different currency to avoid currency risk. So more and more young people, remote workers, more and more entrepreneurs and creators who are building businesses that aren't tied to any one country or any one tax system, especially if your income is scalable, like this becomes more important to you for tax purposes. People who hold a lot of crypto or digital assets, right? They're seeking countries that embrace more innovation rather where it's regulated to death. So here's the question that a lot of people are starting to ask is, why limit myself? Why anchor myself to just one jurisdiction or one country where my entire life is dependent on them? Maybe you only have one passport, you have one banking system, right? All your assets are inside that one country. You have no other passports, no other residencies. More and more people don't want to be controlled or tied by just one country, one government, one banking system, which can be frozen or controlled. As governments grow more authoritarian, as they continue to raise taxes, as they continue to fuel inflation, diversifying your life and internationalizing your life becomes less about paranoia and becomes more about wisdom and practicality, right? In my opinion. I mean, if you value freedom and sovereignty, then I definitely recommend my video about 5 flags, which talks more about that. Or check out other YouTube channels such as Andrew Henderson, Nomad Capitalist. Caleb Jones talks a lot about this too. But nowadays, having a second passport or at bare minimum a second residency as a backup plan and also a separate bank account in another country is becoming more and more important today. It's becoming less optional and actually more mandatory, in my opinion. Another reason, guys, is my favorite one, all right? And I know I touched on this on the first slide, but the quality of life upgrade is a real thing. The peace of mind, the happiness overall that you get when your quality of life raises is worth it alone, right? How would you like to not need a car, right? You can still have a car if you want one, but you don't need one. You can literally ditch your car payments, not having to maintain it or put gas in it. You can just live in the most walkable cities that have everything near you that are still safe to live in, where you can walk to fresh markets that are stuffed with organic, flavorful food that's not processed with different types of chemicals so that it can last longer, right? Where food actually tastes like food. How would you like to live in a rising economy, right? Think about the US back in the 70s or the 80s. That was a place where people wanted to be and go to, right? It was on the rise. It's where all the opportunity was. And I'm not saying US still doesn't have a lot of opportunities. I mean, I'm grateful for actually being born in the US and all the opportunities that it offered me. But now that I have the optionality, I mean, I would rather live in a rising economy where it still feels that way, where it feels like the energy is, you're in a place that's building, it's not declining, where there's a lot more opportunities to launch new businesses and make sound investments at ground floor pricing. Like imagine investing in a 3-family home in Boston, Massachusetts back in the 70s or 80s, right? That investment is now worth like 10 to 20 times more depending on the neighborhood, right? So you can literally invest your money into different markets that are going to just grow over time. And of course, nothing's guaranteed, but my point is there are a lot more investment and business opportunities in other places. For men especially, if you're a single guy, man, once you go abroad, especially in South America, dating and family values are very different from the US. Here in South America, for example, you're going to meet a lot more traditional feminine women and cultures where family is the most important value for them, where your masculinity is not going to be attacked, it's actually appreciated. And then for those of you guys who have married, like where family courts and divorce courts, they aren't designed to destroy the man. You're a lot more protected. Me personally, I never see myself getting married in the US because the laws just don't make sense for men. And I know a lot of guys leave the US just for this reason alone, which, to each their own. I think I value other areas of my life more than just, dating, but it is important, right? The woman that you choose is going to have a huge impact on your life. There's really 3 decisions as a man, and I speak to mostly men on this channel. The first one is actually where you live, right? Where you live is going to determine everything. It's going to determine your cost of living. It's going to determine where you actually find the women that you build a family with, that you want to spend time with. It's going to determine the social relationships, your networking, right? The people that you're around. So huge decision is off where you live as a man. Second one is what you do for work, right? And for me, building a personal brand, using AI to be compatible with that is huge going into the future. So for me, like what you choose to do for work, ideally something that you love, that you enjoy doing too, you can do well into your 60s, 70s, and 80s, right? Is another very important decision. This is in no particular order, by the way. And the third one is the women that you decide to live with, right? The women that you decide to build a family with. In my opinion, the best continent in the world to find that type of woman, to find that city, is in South America. But that's just me. I just went on a rant right there. The other thing is the tribe that's waiting for you. When you go abroad, you meet like-minded people, right? You don't deal with those political conversations. You don't deal with woke culture. It's a lot easier to find a friend group that thinks like you, people who value sovereignty and freedom and travel and quality of life, over stress and just consuming things and items. So it kind of hits on every single area of life, right? Even your health and fitness improves because of the food that I mentioned. Obviously, quality of life, obviously, financial improves because your purchasing power goes a long way and you're saving more money, you're investing more, you're paying less in taxes, your relationships, right? And talking about like across the board here, quality of life raising. And then the tax advantages in many countries, if your income is remote, you can pay little to no tax, especially if it's a territorial tax country or a low tax country. But even if you do decide to build a business or make money within that country, because again, there are good opportunities in certain countries, you can build a business locally that you probably only have to pay 10% flat tax. You know, here in Paraguay, that's how it is. You just pay 10%. If you earn your money inside the country, if you're outside the country, then you're not subject to taxes within Paraguay. And compare that to the 30 to 50% combined tax burden in the US, right? Not including, hidden taxes and daily purchases that you get taxed on. It's not even close, guys. Quality of life is a huge upgrade. I think it's perhaps the most important reason why people want to migrate elsewhere. And I put here the tax comparison, right? US 30 to 50% combined, abroad 0 to 10% remote income. Obviously everyone's tax situation is a little different. Talk to a tax professional, but it is something that I note on because it does affect your quality of life. It does affect your financial life. The more money that you save, the more you can put into investments, the more you can spend into your quality of life. So that's why I bring it up. And maybe a lot of people don't know about it. I know when I was 29, 31 years old, which is really the person that I speak to, my previous self, before I actually internationalized my life and before I was actually earning location independent income, I didn't know a lot of these things. So I just share, bits and pieces in different videos, but this is a huge reason why many people are leaving the US. Another reason is the social proof loop. So now with social media and with so many people having left abroad and people sharing their journeys like I have, the algorithm is now amplifying the movement, right? Every week, there's probably a new YouTuber every single week or a new person on Instagram or whatever. YouTube pushes these videos that normalize the idea of leaving, right? It's no longer are you crazy? I remember before I left, I went out with a couple friends and I told them, my decision. I already had booked the flight. I was ready to go to Medellin, Colombia, October 2022. This probably happened months before that. I remember them thinking like I was crazy, right? Or I was stupid for leaving the best country in the entire world. These are close friends that have never been to South America before, right? They also have families and, so we're in different like phases of life, right? I'm a single guy, no kids. But now that they've seen the transformation and now that I've been out of the country for 3.5 years, they understand now. So I think it's more normal to, people posting about, hey, I left America. Hey, the cost of living in this city is great. Right? People talking about long-term visas, residencies. So the more and more social proof that you see, it makes it more and more okay for other people to do the same. When one person in your circle moves abroad, it might feel radical, which is what happened to me. But when 5 or 10 people do it within your network, it stops feeling crazy and it starts becoming more of a viable quality life option for you. And this actually happened to me too. One of my friends, Adam, I brought up Adam in a different video. He was the first one that exposed me to this within my personal network, right? He had gone remote. He was in sales, location independent income. I was renting and managing apartments in Boston at that time, pre 2020, before this was popular, before social proof even existed when it came to traveling abroad. And what he was doing is spending time in Colombia and Miami and telling me stories in Colombia and the fun that he had there and the adventure. It actually inspired me. I didn't think he was crazy at all. I thought he was on the right track and I needed to get on that track as well. That was my thinking. And that's literally around the time where I started changing, moving into location independent income so that I can travel the world and live the life that I do now. But again, this is no longer becoming a weird thing to do or a strange thing to do. This is now becoming more mainstream. More and more people not only wanting to make this happen, but actually doing it and taking action. So the numbers are rising. I just gave you some reasons why. And again, for the first time in history since the Great Depression, more and more people have left the US than came in. But let me be clear, this isn't a mass exodus just yet, right? I still think it's a very specific demographic that are just becoming more aware of what's possible. So if you want to leave the US, or if you're thinking about it as well, you're still relatively early to the game. And obviously a lot of people that are doing this, they're retirees who just want to, live off their pensions or SSI in a place like Costa Rica, maybe Mexico. But more and more people, such as, remote capable professionals, people in sales, people doing some type of freelance work, people who are starting their own location independent businesses, online income earners, such as, creators. Those are the people that are actually making it happen. I actually get a lot of blue collar people who are interested. Maybe they're in certain trades, or maybe they're in construction, or they're just doing something that requires them to be in the US. And they're asking me questions like, what can I do in Paraguay? Like, is there opportunity there to like build a construction company or
Or what are you seeing that maybe I can do in the country? My answer is always, yeah, look, there are opportunities that you can do here that people aren't doing just yet. But I mean, if your Spanish isn't like fluent, if you don't have any connections here at all, it's going to be a challenge to start a completely new business inside the country, right? So if you don't have a long runway of savings or investments that you can live off in the meantime, it will be a challenge. What I tell them next is the simplest solution is just to get location independent income, guys. Okay. It's to build a revenue stream that doesn't depend on where you physically are. And nowadays, there's a lot of ways that you can do this. There's so many, right? Me, I chose remote sales, just given my real estate background. Now I'm building this personal brand and building up my email list and generating revenues in different ways, which I personally think is the best way, especially moving forward with AI taking over so many jobs. Building a personal brand is probably gonna be the most sustainable solution, and it's actually AI compatible. So I'm gonna start doing more videos on building a personal brand actually. But just find something that you feel like you can be good at, something that maybe you have already experience in that can be done location independently. That's number one. And number two is, even if you don't have location independent income, but you know that you want to leave the US someday, then start to internationalize your life at least a little bit, right? You can still get a residency. You can still get a bank account set up, a foreign bank account set up. You can still move assets internationally. You can still have a legal presence in another country without having to live there, right? Some examples in Latin America are Mexico, Ecuador, Paraguay, with Mexico and Paraguay being the more simpler options. You don't need six figures to invest into a residency for those two countries specifically. In fact, I spent less than $2,000 here in Paraguay to get residency and also bank accounts opened up. So if that interests you, you can actually apply to work with my residency specialist. And if you guys want help building a location independent income specific to building a personal brand with YouTube and using AI, then I am building a creator community, a sovereign creator community is what I'm calling it. In the future, it could be maybe in a month or two. So look out for future videos on that. Or what I recommend that most of you do right now, actually, if you're interested in internationalizing your life, is to watch my deeper dive that I did on 5 flags or flag theory, where I share what it actually is, why it matters more than ever, why I should have actually learned about it sooner before I left. So I'm going to plug it right here, and I'll see you there.